Good afternoon and good morning. It's Mark Johnson from Loyalty 360. Hope everyone's happy, safe, and well. Want to welcome you back to another edition of our Leaders in Customer Loyalty series. In this series, we speak with leading brands about what they are seeing on the front lines of customer, channel, and brand loyalty. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Derek Weidl, the Director of Loyalty at Parkland. How are you, Derek?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today. First off, we'd like to start these on a personal level, get to know the individual speaking with a little bit more, understand kind of their current role within the organization, maybe a little backstory as well of a previous roles you had that were applicable, and then also a fun fact, a passion you may have outside of work.
All right, sounds good. So I'm the director of loyalty programs at Parkland. I've only been around since September, so I'm kind of a veteran at this point after 9 months in, but still learning the business quite a bit. I came from M&M Food Market, which is a frozen food retailer in Canada with over 300 different locations there, where I ran different digital marketing, e-commerce, and loyalty leadership roles there. But I've done a lot of different things from a consumer marketing perspective in retail and nonprofit on the agency side as well, and including documentary broadcasts, which was a little bit of a kind of detour for me, but informed my storytelling as well. So really love retail and been in it for a bit of time. My team at Parkland is responsible for loyalty across the business in Canada, US, and international, with a big focus in the Canadian market with the Journey Rewards program. And so, well, I'm sure we'll get into that quite a bit over the next little while. But fun fact about myself, even though I'm based in Canada, kind of near Toronto, I'm a very big college football fan, specifically Michigan Wolverines. I know you're in Cincinnati, so I'm not sure how you react to that, Mark. But I believe maize and blue. My dad had season tickets growing up. I go to multiple games all the time. Love the tailgating, all that kind of thing. Into recruiting, all that stuff. So that's my passion outside of work.
That's good. I'm not an Ohio State fan, actually. My
Good, we can
daughter,
continue then.
yeah, one daughter, my next daughter, she's pretty much she's a freak athlete. She wants to go to Michigan to run track, so we'll see. They've been to many camps up there, swimming camps, soccer camps. So yeah, I definitely like Michigan over Ohio State. So
all right, we're all good then.
yeah, good, perfect. So for Parkland, for those who may not know, you guys kind of have a very unique entity. Can you give us a short history of what you guys do, how you do it, and who you do it with?
Yeah, so Parkland's a leading convenience and fuel marketer and across 25 different countries, but it started off very humbly in a single gas station in Alberta. And it's mostly focused on retail. So there's about 3,500 retail locations across all those markets, with the biggest, we're serving about 1 million customers a day across all those locations. So, it's quite a big volume and frequency as part of that business. And the business takes different shapes and forms across the different markets as well. Our biggest focus from a loyalty perspective is in Canada. So like we operate under the fuel brands of Chevron, Pioneer, Fas Gas, and Ultramar in Canada. From a Journey Rewards perspective, we also operate under Esso. That's another brand in Canada, but there's a whole mix of them in the US and mostly under the Sol brand in international. Although there's a couple other brands we work with too. But we're serving lots of customers every day. It's a fast growing business that's been largely through acquisitions and partnerships and deals that started from that single gas station in Alberta and now reaching to that 3,500 plus retail locations. So it's a really good Canadian success story that's grown internationally.
Okay, excellent. When you look at customer loyalty, I know you guys have a very successful customer loyalty program, award-winning. When you look at the program, how does the program work? How do members engage with it? What are the benefits, and how do you keep it current?
Yeah, so it's certainly a fuel-focused first program. But that's not the only thing we're trying to accomplish, but that's the hook for customers. And it works quite differently than your typical earn and burn program. There are points you're acquiring, but that points are more of a tracker for your milestones within a journey. So we operate under what we call like a 300 point cycle. So every liter you pump, you get a point, and every dollar you spend in the C store gets you 2 points. And as you go along to that 300 point end state, at that 300 point mark, you get 7 cents per liter off your fill. So that's the hook of the program. Along that journey to the 300 points, there are a couple of different free unlocks at the 75 and 150 point levels. So that gives you opportunities to select, free chocolate bar, water, chips, or maybe an additional 2 cents off per liter in your next fill. We're also introducing other brands into there too, because we've recently purchased M&M Food Market last year. So there's frozen food offerings too, carbon credits, those types of things. And the 75 and 150 level is really about engaging customers in a kind of micro redemption fashion along that journey to the, real kind of hook that the customer has at the 7 cents per liter discount at the 300 point level. And that, those micro redemption opportunities are really about driving customers into the C store. And, kind of really look at what our program is trying to do from two different lenses is, fuel stations is, price and location are really important. And then loyalty is about making you turn left instead of right to the gas stations that you're making a choice on. And the micro conversion opportunities is once we got you at that gas station, can we get you then to move another extra 20 feet into the C store as well? So that's fundamentally what we're trying to accomplish as a loyalty program.
Okay. Can you talk about one of the things I find interesting with the C-store arena, the front court, the back court, how that works, how the fuel may not necessarily match up with kind of the merchant locations. It's kind of interesting how that works. We'd love to hear a little more about that if you don't mind.
Yeah. I'll start off. It's a very complicated business with a lot of complexities of brands and relationships and dealer models versus corporately owned models and all those kinds of things. And as a result, it plays a lot of complications into the loyalty program and how that gets executed with our customers. When we talk about forecourt versus backcourt, forecourt's referring really to the fuel part of the location itself, right? And backcourt referring to the C store and any of the other ancillary retail opportunities there too. And so the forecourt in a lot of cases could be branded differently than how the backcourt's branded, and some companies have that all aligned together, and there's just a considerable web of different relationships and business models going on that kind of creates a lot of complexities around what seems like it should be a simple thing.
Okay. And do convenience stores have high brand loyalty? You talked about getting them able to make that right turn versus the left turn, or is fuel based more on price? So I know in the past we've spoken with people where people could be irrational, right? They'll drive 15 miles to get that 10-cent discount. They don't realize that they spent more than that, going through it.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a mix of rational and irrational behavior, like you described, right? Because a lot of the drivers around, making a choice on fuel is certainly around price and location, which are pretty rational things to do. Where it becomes irrational is the understanding of the, sometimes on the discounts of these things, right? So you might spend more money, driving to a different location or waiting in line and idling than the difference in the price or the discount you're getting through the loyalty program. But people do respond to that. We need to always balance providing the right value to that customer, along with making sure that the program's profitable. So that's always a tricky balance in a space where margin's super tight, like you're talking pennies all the times, that you're kind of fighting it out for, right? So, from a brand loyalty perspective, I mean, it depends on the customers. We certainly see that, our Pioneer brand is understood as, usually a cheaper alternative than something like Chevron, which is another one of the brands we operate, which is understood as more of a premium, and you get different customers there too. From a C-store perspective, the brand I haven't mentioned, which is actually really important for our business, is On the Run, that we have the rights to in Canada and the US that we're rolling out across all those nations or across those different locations on the C-store side of things. And how Canadians, is a bit different than what it is in the US too. Like you see a broader mix or larger variety of the types of C-stores, from holes in the walls to like real destination spots where you don't see that same destination spot to the same degree in Canada, and I think that's changing over time too. So I'd say the consumers are loyal to the brands in different ways in the different regions as well.
Okay. When you look at the customers of Parkland, do you have kind of a diverse offering, in a program that kind of addresses that? Do they have discerning traits? There's some uniquenesses to them, or what do they look like as customers?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like the typical way as a marketer you might look at customers, it's we certainly have some segments of customers that we prefer, but like realistically, like drivers are who we're looking at for the program, a from a general perspective, right? Like anyone who's driving this program can work for sure. The interesting thing about the program is we're not creating demand. We're trying to drive them to choose to have their set demand spent with us as opposed to others. So it's interesting from that perspective. I think the some of the customer traits that are different from other industries is the frequency that we have touch points with them. Our average active customers shopping, interacting with the program, like weekly for the most part, right? And so, your heavy users are doing multiple times a week. So it's a high frequency business, and our customers are more frequent than your typical non-loyalty customers as well. So they're spending more and filling up more, right? So all the types of things you want to see from a loyalty customer, but we're spread pretty wide on the types of like the demographics and psychographics of these customers for sure from the program perspective. And we're trying to diversify that through partnerships as well. So we have our key partnership in CIBC, which is a major bank in Canada. As our launch partner, has been our oldest partner and really important strategic partner for us. We are close to launching Aeroplan in the coming months as well. Partnership with Aeroplan, which is the largest airline in Canada and largest airline program in Canada, loyalty program in Canada as well. That's going to bring in a whole different set of customers that are a little bit more higher end and very sophisticated from a loyalty perspective as well. So it's partnerships and is helping that diversity of the customers too.
Okay. When you look at partnerships, that's a pretty significant area of interest for Loyalty 360. We actually had a member-only brand meeting this week to talk about partnerships, what's working, what's not working. They can stretch the gamut from just buying a series of points from Aeroplan or MGM or whomever, or they can be completely integrated. I think most fuel offerings tend to be more integrated just because of the regulatory piece and the payment processing piece and just some of the complexities there. How do you look at partnerships from a Parkland perspective? How do you get them to work, especially as kind of the whole landscape for partnerships seems to be changing? More, fewer partnerships, more kind of involved partnerships. What are you seeing?
Yeah, for us, like we're in a growth state still. Like so, we've been around for 4 years, but we're still adding a lot of members, and we're still in a growth mode. So partnerships for us, one are very strategic. We're being thoughtful about who we're partnering with and how that brings credibility and equity to our brand, which is a newer brand in the loyalty space. So having brands like CIBC, which is a top 5 bank in Canada, and Aeroplan, which is one of the biggest programs out there in Canada. Canada being one of the more dynamic loyalty spaces out there in general, brings a lot of credibility to our brand, Journey Rewards, as well. So it's certainly brand equity, certainly member acquisition and growth. Those are really key pieces to our partnership strategy. It's making sure that we're giving extra value to our partners, as well as making sure our partners are getting a lot of value of the program too, which is easy to say, but difficult to execute on, of course. And our program design lends itself well to having multiple large partners because we can be pretty distinct in the offering between the partners. So with CIBC, we have an everyday discount of 3 cents off on per liter on every fill. we're not public yet with the details on the Aeroplan integration, but it's going to be an integrated approach where you know Aeroplan customers are going to participate in the Journey program to get some Aeroplan benefits. It's not a straight currency swap, right? And
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
because of the structure of our program allows for that type of activity, which is great for us and great for our partners because they can differentiate their offering. But also it makes the customer have to actually participate in the program actively and understand it, and therefore become more engaged in our program and engaged with our brands, and allows us to help manage the behavior that we're hoping to see out of the program too. So there's a couple different pieces there to summarize, right? It's the acquisition, the equity, but also leveraging the design of the program to really get the most of these partnerships and hope they get a lot of us too.
Okay. Great. A little bit your customers, right? How you look at them. Do they give you feedback about their experiences? Do you give a voice of customer, things that you may enhance, things that they're looking for with regard to experiences, the service level, or the program itself?
Yeah, absolutely. We get that from a number of different sources. We have our own call center set up that, we're constantly monitoring what type of information, whether from trends to like, bugs and those types of things to solve on those experiences, but also, what are things that they're appreciating and liking too. We do get some positive calls every now and then on the call center front, which is always encouraging. And of course, using social media is a good listening spot for us to understand what customers are reacting to. And then at the operator level too is really critical for us from a voice of customer perspective, because the program lives and dies with that in-person experience at the pump and at the backcourt. This program, by definition, has to have a physical component, right? Like you're driving your car and you're filling up physically at these stations. There's nothing, you can't digitize that experience, right? So there's always going to be that in-person moment where the program lives and dies, and our operators are a great uh, funnel for a lot of that feedback from the customers, because they're going to hear it, they're going to get it, and they're interacting with the customers. I think our challenge is, of course, um, we're a fuel-based program, or C-store program, fuel-based program, that you have a lot of kids working these jobs. It's a lot of high turnover. So informing and training those people to interact properly with those customers and take the feedback we need and funnel that up is very difficult. But at the same time, a lot of what we've received from customers has directly impacted changes we've made in the program to, allowing customers to choose when they use their discounts, to what kind of offers we put into at the 75 and 150 point freebie levels, to we just did a big app redesign that was pretty extensive, that the customer feedback over time fed into that. Of course, we brought it to user testing too, and did research on all those things as well. This is only going to work if the customers like it. So we need to ensure that we're constantly listening, and we have a growing muscle in how we cross-functionally come together to look at all the feedback we're seeing from all these different channels and feed that into our development roadmap and program roadmap too.
Okay. What's the biggest challenge you face in your role? What keeps you up at night?
um, I think it's on two fronts. I kind of talked a bit about the challenge at the operator level, that it's the biggest opportunity, but it's really challenging for us in a head office space to be impacting to the degree we want to that customer and human interaction that happens, right? You have like 19-year-olds that may show up on Monday and may be done with that job on Friday, right? And so keeping them trained and informed in the program, especially with different business models where you have dealers that have a big range of interest and understanding of the program themselves, and relying on them to train out to those that staff. It's a challenge. It's an ongoing challenge. to break through and make sure they're using the right messages and understanding, how important that customer interaction is for the program. So that's one that keeps me up at night. I think the other one is, how are we constantly, evaluating, understanding the right messages to send to consumers, and what's driving value for them that also equals value for us as a program. So what are the right customer touch points? What's the right message? What's the right offer? How we do this at scale? How do we get more and more personalized? The things all like marketers and loyalty people are sweating. And it's all, but both of those things are centered around how we interact with our customers, right? So fundamentally, it's our customers that keep me up at night. I just hadn't put it together till now that those are both the same thing. And so it's all the different touch points with the customers fundamentally.
Okay. Are there programs you admire from a customer loyalty perspective, programs that you're loyal to? And if so, what are they? Who are they? And why are you loyal to them?
Yeah, it's interesting. Up in Canada, it's a pretty dynamic loyalty space. There's some that have been around for a long time. So, PC Optimum is one you're always kind of measuring yourself towards. For those who aren't familiar, it's Loblaws grocery chain, along with Shoppers Drug Mart, the pharmacy. They had two massive programs, and then Loblaws bought them and combined it all together. And it's a massive, massive program that, there's huge resources behind it. And so, I mean, that's a space you're always wanting to, pay attention to and understand what they're up to, and one that almost everyone is interacting with because so many of the retail spaces are attached to that program. So, it's kind of hard to avoid that one. And they've done a great job and continue to like develop out that program. Interact with their customers and kind of another high frequency type of situation with find different ways and touch points to interact with you and get you to predict what you want and when you want it and how you and best ways to hook you into that. McDonald's is ones we have ongoing chat on with about McDonald's and looking at all the different and that's has some similarities to us, and where they have like different point levels to your spending points instead of tracking points. But we think there's a lot of similarities in those, or a lot of things that we could leverage from there to introduce into our program. So we pay attention to that. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about M&M Food Market in Canada, an interesting loyalty program there that's very different than most of the ones I've just mentioned. Partially because I come from that space, but I also find it like very unique in the marketplace too, in that it functions a little bit more like a membership program, in that it's really like over 95% of the transactions happening in those locations are with the member account, like a loyalty member account. So like the amount of data is incredible. The way the program's woven into the DNA of the business, like you don't struggle getting franchise partners to participate in the program. It's like it's as straightforward as handing out a receipt to them. Like it's just part of operating. So I think like the kind of DNA of loyalty within M&M I find super fascinating, and want to find ways to replicate that at Parkland through the Journey Rewards program.
Okay, excellent. And last question, what can Loyalty 360 do to help you and your team in your customer loyalty journey?
I think industry best practices, like learning how other programs are doing different things and being innovative. We're all trying to stand out, right? And we're all trying to figure out how to break through the noise. There's never been more loyalty programs, out there. And so, customers can participate in probably only so many and or be active and engaged in it in only so many different ways. So, what are people having success on? What are some of the benchmarks? And how do we apply those to our business and think about that different way to make that stand out too? At the end of the day, like we're fuel and convenience store business. Fuel's a grudge purchase, right? So like, no, we're not going to win with, uh, without being like really precise in creating a value proposition to the customer.
Yep.
So we got to get creative in making that seem less grudge. Like,
All right, good. Grudge purchase and moving away from being a grudge purchase. That's quite interesting.
we won't go all the way there. We just need to be less painful. Is I think is the goal there.
Okay, good. Well, Derek, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us today. Very interesting to hear a little bit more about you and also your interesting program, Parkland, and kind of interesting to hear what keeps you up at night as well. So thank you very much for taking the time to share with us today.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and look forward to hearing the other guests you have on over the time.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, as well for listening. Make sure you join us for another edition of our Leaders in Customer Loyalty series coming up soon. Have a wonderful day.